Introduction. April 18, 2020. I found an old journal in a stationery store that was mostly destroyed. I was sent there to find a safe place to set up a new outpost, but most of the buildings were destroyed during the riots after TOTEM was deployed. I'm currently writing this in the bunkhouse of Camp 80, which was set up by the remaining US government as a peace zone during the riots. I still remember those days, listening to the shouting and gunfire as I watched the angry mob march into the city. I miss my old apartment where I had a door for privacy, my own toilet, and a kitchen. Eventually, the mob broke through the police and military line, and I was evacuated and conscripted into the Union of the Battered. Our commander, Commander Kashmir, took control of the Union and led us into the heart of the mob, where we not only pushed them out of the city but also retrieved our weapons. It was terrifying, but Cash kept us from falling back. Anyway, I'm going to bed, as I have an outpost to set up tomorrow. April 23, 2020. Today, I was transferred to my new outpost and Cash made me the head of the outpost. I will receive my orders tomorrow, and workers will be sent to help me set up the outpost. We need to put up some walls and fix some roofs so that I can turn this outpost into Camp 81, or even a town. April 23, 2020. 7 p.m. help arrived a few hours ago, and they helped me set up a generator. One of them even brought a TV and some old tapes, which we set up on the second floor. We boarded up all the windows downstairs and installed a lock bar for the door. I have my own room now, but no bed yet. At least I have a couch. The plan for this outpost is to make it a glorified gas station and mechanic shop. But hey, at least I'm the head of this place. Tomorrow we need to build a gate in the center of the courtyard. Apparently, this place used to be a library, so I grabbed most of the books I could because I know they would be used for fuel if they were not useful. Anyway, I'm going to watch those movies now. May 24, 2020. After a month of slowly receiving workers, we have reached our capacity. We converted the roof into a garden, turned the left side of the library into a bunkhouse, and even have fans to keep us cool. I have an office and a bedroom now. I love this place. It's so much better than Camp 80. Cash ordered us to reinforce and modify any workable vehicle we could find, and we took over the entire street and all the buildings on it. We now have a capacity of over 300, and after converting 2 buildings into garages, we were granted the title of Camp 81. I am now the camp director. Chapter 1. The base. The rain poured down hard on the ramshackle roof of the makeshift garage, barely holding back the downpour as 2 workers discussed the state of the dilapidated engine. As they tried to repair it, the power went out, causing one of the workers to drop his tool. "God damn it," said the worker. "Don't worry, I'll get it," said the other mechanic. "Where is that thing?" he thought to himself as he searched around the darkness under the truck. "Come up from under there," said the worker in a worried voice. "What? Are you afraid of being alone in the dark?" the mechanic said jokingly as he dusted himself off. "No, I heard something, and normally the camp's power doesn't shut off this early," he said. "Well, go look around and find the director, and I'll hang back here and try to turn the lights back on," he said in a tired tone. As the worker left the shop and walked into the downpour, he noticed that all the buildings had lost power. The wind picked up, and the icy breeze knocked him off his feet. He lay there for a few seconds trying to regain his bearings. As he picked himself up, he noticed that a group of soldiers was entering one of the transport trucks. He knew something was wrong, so he ran to the truck as fast as he could and said, "Where are you going? What's wrong?" But before anything was said, an alarm sounded, and the truck roared to life and sped off. The truck that was originally blocking his view of the city was removed and revealed a giant blaze. "What the hell?" he thought. "Jordan, get over here, now," a loud voice shouted. The worker snapped his head in the direction of the disturbance. Then he noticed a young boy who couldn't have been older than 5 running up to the fence. He closed his eyes as he saw the camp guard raise his rifle and fire at the child. Luckily it was just a warning shot, and the child ran back into the arms of his mother. The worker yelled at the guard and asked why he did that. The guard shouted back, "Cash has ordered us to fire upon anyone trying to leave or enter the camp without documents." "Why?" he asked in an angered tone. "Orders from the camp director," the guard shouted. "Return to your home and leave me alone," the guard added. The worker walked to the directorate facility, which is the capital of Camp 81. He entered the lobby of the building and saw people scrambling back and forth. One of the office workers noticed him and asked for his name and occupation. "My name is Clark. I work in Shop 1A, and I live in the workers' quarters in the shop," he said. "What's your reason for visitation?" "I'm here because the power went out in the shop, and we can't work without the lights on, and we need. Before Clark could finish what he was saying, the office worker interrupted and said, "We can't spare any more fuel. Your job will have to be completed at a later date. Now please leave. We are very busy," she said sternly. Clark simply, "Please leave. We are very busy." Back to the shop to tell the mechanic what was going on. Chapter 2. The last night. As Clark returned to the shop, he noticed that the door was wide open, and as he got closer, he saw a note pinned to the door. To all employees of 1A, due to some current issues, we have shut down the shop until further notice. So please return to your homes and remain there until further notice. Despite reading everything the note said, he simply disregarded it and attempted to enter the garage area but was stopped by the mechanic. "What are you doing here? Can't you read?" The mechanic shouted. "I can read, dumbass. Do you know what's going on? Why is everything in disarray? Why are there fuel shortages?" Clark asked. "I have no idea, but we need to finish this engine since you're here," he said. "Not right now. I'm heading to sleep," Clark replied. The mechanic simply responded with whatever. Clark began to walk down the hall and doze off until he was swiftly awoken by another alarm. This time, the alarm was different. It was a tornado siren. "What the fuck? Surely this can't be real," Clark said to himself. He ran into his room and hid under his bunk and fell asleep due to exhaustion. The next morning he woke up and went outside. He saw complete disarray. Most of the tents were destroyed, and a building was burnt down. Tons of people were displaced from their homes. The National Guard drove in and brought in buses to bring people to Camp 80. Clark noticed the body bags and almost puked. "What the fuck?" Clark blurted out. "What happened? Did the storm do this?" he said to himself. "No, the storm didn't do this. The camp guard didn't allow anyone to evacuate and herded them into that building. They shot anyone trying to escape," the mechanic said as tears started to roll down his bushy face. "Herded who?" Clark asked in a worried tone. "The civilians. Anyone who couldn't work. I was working on the engine when the storm started to pick up. Then I saw this evil red glow through the garage window. I heard screaming and gunfire. I recognized one of the voices. It was Olivia. They locked her in there and let her die with the rest," the mechanic said, trying to hold back tears. "I'm not going to live without Olivia. We have been married for years, and I won't leave a single day without her. Goodbye, Clark," the mechanic said before Clark could say anything. The mechanic ran to one of the guards at the camp and began to beat the guard to death while screaming Olivia's name. The guards pulled the mechanic off the other guard and tied him up. He was thrown into one of the buses and left with the National Guard convoy. Clark was in utter disbelief at the crime he just witnessed. "Goodbye, man. You didn't deserve that." Chapter 3. New Dawn. As the convoy disembarked from the camp, the Union Guard arrived shortly after and started to hand out pieces of paper with numbers. Clark, who was still dumbfounded by the crime he had just witnessed, did not notice the soldier in front of him holding a piece of paper with the number 54 on it. "Civilian, here is your draft number. Keep it and attend the rally. Failure to do so will result in imprisonment," said the soldier in a serious voice. "Huh? Oh, thank you, sir. I'll hold on to this," Clark said in a mocking voice. Clark returned to his room to gather some things. He grabbed his pocket knife, documents, handgun, sharpening stone, shaving kit, and other essentials. Even if he doesn't get drafted, he refuses to stay in this camp. "I need to leave after tonight. I can't stay here. Not after what happened," Clark said to himself. After grabbing all of his things, Clark decided to go clean himself up. First, he rinsed his jet black hair through the water, and then he splashed his face while removing all the dirt from his beard. Clark reeked of mud and sweat, so he used some of his homemade soap to freshen himself up. He changed out of his work clothes and put on a t-shirt, blue jeans, and boots. Finally, he glanced over at his work in the mirror. Then he returned back to his room to take stock of the belongings that he wouldn't be bringing with him. "I'm gonna miss this place. God knows if I'll have a warm bed to sleep in wherever I end up," Clark said. After sitting down for a few hours, an alarm sounded and a voice came on the PA system. "Anyone who has a draft card is required to meet in the courtyard immediately. Failure to do so will result in imprisonment." Clark ran to the courtyard to line up for the rally. His stomach sank as the man at the podium began to call out numbers. "Anyone with the numbers 7, 10, 42, 54, 86, 77, 2, and 99 has been drafted to join the Union of the Battered. Anyone with the numbers 17, 20, 52, 64, 96, 87, 12, and 109 must join the reserve." This can't be, Clark said to himself. I'm not joining. I'm a mechanic for God's sakes. The camp needs me. Clark kept repeating as the soldiers started to approach him. Number 54, get over here, one of the soldiers shouted. Clark was pulled out of his trance and quickly looked at the soldier who was ordering him to follow them. The soldier who was shouting at Clark looked dirty, angry, and tired, not wanting to put up a fight. Clark walked over to the soldier and followed his orders. He stepped into the truck and began his journey. Chapter 4. Broken down. After a few hours of sitting in the back of a cramped truck, Clark arrived at this rundown mansion which has been converted into a training facility. The mansion itself looked to be about 100 years old. Bits of the roof had been repaired with whatever the military could find. Bits of plywood covered the windows, and a barbed wire fence was set up around the perimeter of the mansion along with a garden and a few sheds made out of wood and tin. Upon arrival, Clark knew the guards at the training facility would confiscate his bag, so he quickly hid the bag in some bushes while they were unloading everyone from the truck. Clark assembled back into formation and listened to the sergeant's orders. All right, conscripts, here is your service bag. Do not lose it. If your bag gets damaged or lost, you will be thrown in the hold and forced to stay there until you find your bag or find a new one. Do I make myself clear? Clark picked up his service bag and grabbed a glance at the sergeant. The sergeant was maybe in his early 40s or late 30s. He had a damaged flat-brimmed drill sergeant hat on and wore a green uniform. He had a scar across his knuckles and an engraved symbol on his cheek. What is your name, scum? The drill sergeant barked. My name is Clark, sir. Clark responded. No, your name is scum. Do you understand? Yelled the drill sergeant. Sir, my name is scum, sir. Clark responded. Get out of my sight, and if I catch you looking at me again I'll throw you in the hold. After a few minutes, which felt like an entirety to Clark, the drill sergeant began to bark new orders at the group of shanghaied civilians. Scumbags, get into formation and march into the facility. Chapter 5. The end of an era. The smell of this place is worse than the look of it, Clark thought. The mansion reeked of rotten wood and stagnant water. The hallway was dimly lit with lanterns and candles, and the floor was extremely damp, causing some boards to crack underfoot. Get used to it, scumbags, the drill sergeant said mockingly. For the next 3 months, this place will be your home, a guard added. Some of the walls had holes cut into them, and some of the doorways were boarded up. This place is awful. Don't you guys have laws against this? Asked one of the conscripts. Laws? There are no more laws. Laws that protect you only slow down the relief efforts. The world has ended, and we will bring it back. Morals of the old world destroyed our nation. I won't let that happen again, the drill sergeant said, punching the conscript in the gut for speaking out of line. As this was happening, Clark was thinking about his bag. He needed to get to it to escape. All right, scumbags, this is your room. Make your bed and get to sleep. Tomorrow, we will break you, the drill sergeant shouted. As Clark lay in bed, he thought about how he could escape. He took note of the structural integrity of the room he was in. He looked around and saw a poster with a patriotic message. Totem, Uncle Sam's shield and America's guardian angel, with a picture of an American flag being protected by a shield from rockets. Clark was disgusted by the poster, but it also gave him an idea. He got up from his bed, ripped the poster off the wall, and rolled it up. Then he grabbed a candle, lit it on fire, and threw it into the exposed insulation. This might work, Clark said to himself as smoke began to fill the room. Once a majority of the room was on fire, Clark broke a few windows to allow the others to escape as well as himself. In the process of escaping, Clark cut himself with a large piece of broken glass. Blood began to pool from the cut and began to pour down his arm. Son of a bitch, Clark shouted. Clark's yelling caught the attention of some guards. Stop right there or we will shoot you. Get on your hands and knees and crawl towards us. Tell us your name and draft number. My name is Scum, and the number is 54, Clark yelled. The guard radioed in his superior to inform them about the captured criminal. We apprehend one of the escaping conscripts. Kill him. Abandoning duties is punishable by death, the radio responded. Yes, sir. One guard turned away and the other put his rifle to Clark's head and pulled the trigger. Chapter 6. Easy way out. With a small movement of the finger, Clark thought his life would end, but due to the poor condition of the guard's pistol, he cheated death. He kicked the guard and bolted towards the woods. He was not pursued due to the fire, so he ran and ran for almost 7 hours straight, but in reality it was only a quick sprint into a town. As soon as Clark caught his breath, he had a new problem. The cut was getting worse and he could not afford to get the wound infected. He entered a gas station that was not occupied but was picked clean of all supplies, except for a flag. Clark took the flag and tied off the wound to stop the bleeding. That'll work. Now I have to find something for the open cut, he thought. He looked around for anything else and found nothing, so he left and went to a campfire in the center of the town. Chapter 7. Warmth. After a short trek, he found the camp and watched from afar at the people huddling around the fire. They looked sick and desperate. Not wanting to start a fight, Clark waited for them to go to sleep, and when they did, he searched their camp for anything. He found nothing but a can of beans. He didn't take it. He slept close to the camp that night, but not close enough to be detected. When he woke up, the wound had gotten worse. He searched the town some more but found nothing except for a pickup truck that had no tires, batteries, or doors. So without any choice, he walked up to the campers and asked for help. "My name is Clark. I am a worker from one of the camps. They treated us like slaves and conscripted us. I am wounded and need help or a doctor," he shouted. "We don't have anything to give and we have no doctors. Now go." One of them shouted. "Please," he shouted. "I need help. I can help you. I just need help with my arm." I said, "Clear out," shouted one of the refugees. "Wait," said a young man with a rifle strapped around his shoulder. "What kind of worker were you?" "Clark," he asked calmly. "I am handy with repairing and anything that involves machinery," he said frantically. "Are you good at fixing cars?" the man asked. "Yes, but not great," he replied. "Maybe you are useful. Come with me," the man ordered.